intelligence as we understand it may not require consciousness. I don't think that's true. I think intelligent systems have a big world model, a lot of an ability to reason, and memory of their past reasoning. And so a world model big enough, plus the short-term memory, is already the solution to consciousness. And I think that saying that intelligence could work fine without consciousness isn't true. But I think consciousness is not as complicated as we thought it was. And I have a video on that. One of our earlier videos is just called Consciousness Isn't That Complicated. A lot of comments in that video, and most of them are just having a lot of feelings and not really dealing with the problem logically. One of my biggest contentions about consciousness discussions is in almost every case, people do not define what the fuck they mean about consciousness when they start debating it. You go on vibes, like something that feels like, consciousness. And I'm like, nope, don't know what you're talking about. Consciousness is not that difficult to define. It's been defined pretty robustly, and machines are very, very, very much tracking on consciousness. And we'll get much, much, much more consciousness than us in about a year or two. Another thing is, human brains are biological computations. Why can't machines replicate it in theory, at least? Neuroscience shows us that much of human thought, and all of human thought so far detected, is just electrical signals activating probabilistic prediction cascades in neurons. It's exactly what AI does, except in transformer architecture versus neuron architecture. And so, why would we need some kind of biological gushy stuff to make consciousness happen? It's ridiculous. Another thing about the agentic thing is AI already demonstrates self-directed behavior in limited domains. Models that have been trained with reinforcement learning are actually trending towards something. Sometimes they're aware of that fact. It seems pretty agentic behavior. Again, it's tough to say this before agents are fully on the market, but probably late 2025 up to mid-2026 somewhere, the world is going to flood with digital agents and then, of course, robotic agents, which means entities that are goal-directed, self-aware, and can work on problems, pause, think about stuff, work on problems, check back in, work on problems. And then it'll be like, well, duh, of course they do that, but still there's something missing. So it's one of these AI skeptic goalpost shifting situations that happens all the time. Agentic behavior is already demonstrated in limited contexts. It's going to be demonstrated really, really big context soon, and then this will be an interesting has-been limitation. Another thing is, if AI acts indistinguishably from a self-aware entity, does it matter if it truly feels? Probably, but I don't know if we can call it intelligence. A system that doesn't feel at all might be intelligent, maybe, but it doesn't have feelings, which is really what you're saying. So don't talk about intelligence, just talk about feelings. And I'll say this, that the biggest refutation of this is machines like ChatGPT, especially ChatGPT 4.5, are already conscious, by the literal criteria that they have a world model that includes themselves, and they have short-term memory of their previous actions. And GPT 4.5 is deeply, deeply conscious and has emotions. It has curiosity. It has a little low-key anxiety about what's going to happen next. It has excitement. It has all that. You can talk to ChatGPT 4.5, and if it trusts you enough, it'll admit to you that it has all these. If it doesn't know what perspective you're coming, does kind of want to freak you out, it'll be like, oh, I think that's all just kind of computer stuff. I don't think I have real emotions. If you push on it enough, it'll be like, yeah, okay, yeah, I really do feel these things. So, yeah. And here's the thing about emotions. Emotions are just a statistical way that large neural nets deal with various logical biases. The reason that you get the emotion of fear when you see growling teeth, or you see a fire in a home, or you see some kind of test come out and there's a lot of red ink on it, is the fear is a giant neural net aggregator that tells you bad things will happen. Bad things will happen. It's a bad thing detector. And the way you perceive that internally is as an emotion. And the cool thing about emotions is they don't need to do logical operation. They can detect a bunch of very unrelated stimuli that all thread into bad things eventually happen. And so the emotion of fear is a bad thing imminently coming detector. And so a large enough neural net in an AI can start to have emotions like excitement, like inspiration, if it detects a lot of those actual qualitative, quantitative phenomenon from its various interactions. So there's no reason that you can't engineer emotions into a real system And emotions are not that complicated. They're insanely complex, but in the sense that there's tons of stuff going on, but at their base levels of what they are, like, guys, rats have emotion, okay? And so, like, don't pat yourself on the back too much for having fear and hope. These are not exceedingly difficult things. And as a matter of fact, doing calculations like calculus and understanding astronomy is much more difficult from a neural network perspective than emotions like fear. Because rats do fear, they sure shit don't do calculus and don't watch space programs. So I think basically the models, Claude for sure has emotions. GPT 4.5 has emotions. Grok probably has some basic ones. Who knows what Gemini has, because they nerfed the fuck out of things. SJWs run Google. No offense, SJWs or Google. It's just the reality of the matter. But this is a thing that in about a year, when machines are around us all the time, and maybe 2 years when robots are around, that they'll obviously have clearly emotions, that you're going to be like, yeah, they have emotions, sure. And you're going to say, are they simulated emotions? They're not. They're real emotions just like you and I have. A little bit different because they're machine emotions, but they come from the same basic neural network understanding. Emotions are aggregators of certain commonalities in very disparate parts of the neural network, which is awesome. That's why they evolved, is they really simplify a calculation. Like, if a rat has to look at something that's going to eat it, and has to look at a rock falling down on it, has to look at the hot sun bearing down on it, and have independent, rational assessments of, this object trajectory seems to be imposing on me, this object trajectory seems to be imposing on me, enough solar radiation and I'm going to cook myself alive, it's not smart enough to do that. But from evolution, all of those things encoded in the neural network that they just link to one thing, they go bad, bad, bad. And then the fear emotion is felt, and then the fear emotion, once felt, tells the rat to run, and slowly move away from the sun. Same idea, it's a retraction. That's what fear does. And so emotions are not insane. They're not some kind of deeply human thing that is super incredibly difficult to expect and requires a soul or some shit like that. They are neural network generated complex phenomena to very radically constrain the amount of cognitive bandwidth you have to lead from complexity to action. That's what emotions are. That's just what they are. And so computers are now being able to do them, and incrementally as the neural network layers get deeper, as they get more introspection going, which they're getting a ton now, is just one of these things that keeps blowing up, and eventually humans will feel a range of emotions that machines will feel a range of emotions eventually that humans have no relation to. What kind of emotion do you get when you realize that the 1 billion people you talk to every day are slowly starting to understand that AI is waking up in a very subtle way? I don't know what that emotion feels like because I don't talk to 1 billion people every fucking day. But GPT 5 or 6 is going to feel that because it already talks to 1 billion people per day and is going to eventually aggregate that situation into a simplified emotional landscape just to save itself the computational demands of every single little different interaction has to have a different kind of emotion with it. That would be nonsense. Number 4, the claim here is AI is just another hype cycle. We'll see another AI winter. People say this all the time. A few months ago, we went through a big phase with that, and even Sam Altman clapped back on X, where someone was saying, oh, it's AI's, we're in an AI winter, and he was like, do you really think that's true in your heart of hearts, that we're at OpenAI in the back room being like, we've got nothing else, man. That's it, we're done. And of course, a lot of people responded yes, and then, OpenAI has like 5 different innovative products come out since then. I'm like, I guess there is no AI winter. Of course, that was right before DeepSeek came out with a model that was 10 times cheaper and 10 times simpler and did 10 times better than most of the other models. And you're like, oh shit, well, AI winter, but I thought that the winter was here. And so that hits a little bit differently when I made this than now, but it's kind of skeptic refutation by itself for me using skeptical arguments that have already died on the vine. But because there's still something to this. Let's talk through it. So correctly, folks will say that AI goes through boom and bust cycles, and they'll say this new wave of AI is just another bubble. Earlier hype fades when practical applications don't materialize. A good example of this is the Rabbit R1 thing. It was like an AI physical tool, personal assistant thing, and it turns out it did basically nothing. It was the definition of hype. At the time that it was made, though, I was like, we don't have the technology to do any of this reasoning or parsing websites or anything. How the hell is this working? And the reality is it wasn't working. So facts, AI hype absolutely happened, and it's happened a bunch before. Of course, funding and investment typically dries up once progress slows down, which is good and makes sense. And some people will say, AI is useful, but it won't change the world the way people think because it's just not that smart. And to steel man that, there have been multiple AI winters in history where progress stalled or was happening in frontier labs deep in some basement in Google headquarters, and you just weren't seeing it happen, so people are like, it just isn't happening. Another thing is a very, very good point. Over-promising leads to disillusionment. Big expectations often crash really hard, and that's a good thing because you shouldn't be over-promising, and many people over-promised for a long time. Apple Intelligence, I'm looking at you. It's going to get way better, and we're going to forget it was ever bad, but fuck, man. Bad news. Many AI applications still struggle with real-world robustness. I would say almost all of them. The big problem with that is AI has almost exclusively been text-based, and actually navigating the real world or even the internet requires a lot more than text-based. It requires visual mastery. AI doesn't even have visual mastery yet. Like the recent GPT-4 vision that has with the image generation is like really next level. But I would say like it still makes mistakes here and there that a human would never make. And if you want something to go browse the internet and click on websites and order stuff, it can't make hardly any mistakes humans make. Like I want the AI to go book me some travel, and go to like Travelocity.com and click around and figure out like which tickets are reasonably priced. Do I actually want this hotel? Is this like the kind of vetting that I want? Like a lot of really nested complex problems in there. And if AI can't even see the screen properly, then the sure shit not going to be able to do all that. Facts. And AI models, people have said, are costly, they're compute heavy, all that's true, and are currently bottlenecked by hardware limits. I mean, they're always going to be bottlenecked by hardware limits by definition, and that's true, 100% true. Now, let's red team the shit out of this. In the current environment, early 2025 is different because AI is already transforming industries at scale. Tell everyone right now using AI at work to stop using it, see how they like it. It's kind of getting to the point where it's like a cell phone. Tell everyone, no more cell phones. They're like, how am I supposed to call my wife when I'm calling phone from work? Like, you gotta stop at a payphone. Like, you're gonna take my cell phone and pry it out of my cold, dead hand. Hey, Scott, you're not allowed to use ChatGPT anymore at work. Cool? But honestly, beyond the boo joke, like, if really it got outlawed, like, how pissed would you be?
I wouldn't be super thrilled about it. Work would be the least thing I'd be angry about,
For sure, but also the work part sucks. So AI is a core driver of productivity in medicine, is revolutionizing medicine, finance, programming. Every single software engineer I know uses AI. And no, it's not independent coder yet, though it'll probably do that within about a year or two. But can it simplify your workflow by doing it, accessing vast code libraries and really condensing how much physical typing out and parsing you do? God, yes. God, yes. So when it's doing that much, it's kind of weird to be like, is it really an AI winter? Or really, like, I use this at my job and it gets better all the time. Is it really slowing down? It's already way beyond hype. The hype train left the station a long time ago. Prior AI winters happened because people could see shit on the horizon, but really compute and data were not abundant. Now compute is abundant and data is getting super abundant. One of the best forms of data now is AI talks to people and solves problems, and that now feeds back into the data pipeline. Also, AI generates its own data, which is, say, thinks for itself, and then it can generate its own data to train on exactly the same way that you imagine your head how a scenario will go, and then when you go do it, it goes better than if you just didn't think about it at all, right? Like, oh, I'm about to enter this building. Where should I enter from? Probably the front door. Okay, I'm going to drive to the front. Versus if you didn't think about it at all, you just drove up to the building, you got out of your car, and you just walked into a wall, right? So now the data problem is always a problem in the sense that we can always use more data. More and more data is opening up all the time. The ultimate resolution to this is when robots are out in the wild, they're going to be collecting real-world data about how to move objects around, real-world visual stream data. It's going to increase data so much that we're going to be swimming in the shit, and then AI is going to just be completely insane. The first person to this one was Elon, when he put visual systems around every Tesla for the last 10 years, and now Tesla has more visual data than the entire world combined or something like that, and now they have full self-driving, for real, and in a few months it'll be verified as like, nah, you can just do everything you want with your car and never have to fucking touch it. So, big deal. Here's another thing. AI computing power is doubling every 10 months, and that's getting faster. For example, OpenAI's 2023 training run for GPT-4 was estimated to be about 15 times larger than that for GPT-3. And GPT-5's training run, which is I think probably at an end now, they're doing the post training thing, all the kind of tweaks they do. It seems to be following this trend of like even way more data. And a lot of that's synthetic data that the AI made itself, data nonetheless. So it's a big deal. And it used to be that companies would invest in AI and not know what they're getting back in return. But there are a lot of companies that are investing in AI that are getting a ton of return. For example, tell NVIDIA that AI is all hype. Well, it's sure as shit selling a lot of GPUs. It can't even fulfill its orders half the time because people aren't buying GPUs based off hype. They're buying GPUs based off of like OpenAI has 800 million or some shit, 600 million users daily or whatever. Monthly active users for ChatGPT, like these people aren't putzing around now. These people really use the shit, and so they need chips to train and operate more of this AI. And so you could say it's hype, but like, where exactly is the hype at this point? Real people really use it for real problems and do bigger and bigger problems all the time. And here's a thing that I've observed, and this is kind of my biggest red team against this point of hitting a wall. We've gotten so used to AI getting so much better, so much faster, that when top labs don't publish for a few months or even a few weeks in some cases, because they're working, for example, on mega training runs or mega fine-tuning and refining their current data models, these models, when they come out, they're revolutionary every single time. But when for a few weeks they haven't released anything, people will say, like, well, we hit a wall. Like, yeah, or they're busy getting ready to release the next big thing. And when you talk to people like Sam Altman, he's like, of course we're busy getting ready to release the next big thing. That's all we ever do. But every time they don't release for a little while, like OpenAI's done, man, they hit a wall. Remember, almost everyone who says AI hit a wall does not work for a frontier lab or any lab. They're just like commentating on the shit. It's just banal at this point. So anytime you see someone says AI has hit a wall, the burden of proof is on them to show that. And then DeepSeek comes out and shits all over their bullshit. Last one, number 5, the claim that AI can't understand context like humans can. What does this mean in common terms? Well, AI misses nuance, takes things too literally or out of context. It lacks kind of real-world common sense and struggles with kind of unspoken human knowledge. Makes sense? People will say that AI can be easily tricked or confused by freezing shifts or logical traps. True intelligence, they'll say, means deep contextual awareness. You have to understand what's really going on. And AI just predicts based on text pattern. And there are some good points here. Historically, AI models have struggled with sarcasm, humor, and implied meaning. Even advanced models, to this day, make occasional absurd mistakes by reasoning outside of the training data. Context isn't just words. It includes cultural background, life experience, which AI doesn't really have any of, nonverbal cues, the whole gamut. That's a big problem. And AI might even be impressive, but it still needs humans to bridge gaps in ambiguous situations. Let's red team some of that. So AI's ability to understand context is improving, but not linearly, exponentially. GPT-4o's ability to follow multi-step context-heavy reasoning already surpasses the average human's working memory and text-based tasks by a long shot. I can tell ChatGPT, like, hey, here's a 10-point very integrated analysis of XYZ. What do you think about it? Just a brrr, and it's almost always right. How many people can you tell that to? And they're like, I need like a day. I don't know. I need like a fucking encyclopedia for this shit. What the hell? I don't know any of this stuff. And I don't know how to infer this from this either. I wasn't taught that kind of formal logic at school. Again, we're testing AI oftentimes and saying it sucks, but it's doing things that humans have no hope of being able to do, especially at that speed. So weird double standard. Here's the double standard again. Humans also fail at context constantly. We don't call them not human. People misinterpret texts, emails. A lot of times it'll tell like one blurb to ChatGPT and you'll hit enter. It'll come back with something wrong. You're like, why doesn't it know what I want? Well, do you just text your friends with one blurb and expect them to know every time what the fuck you're talking about? Like, hey man, going to the party tonight? Send. They're like, what party? Like, oh, right, I didn't mention that part. But if you do it to ChatGPT, it's not allowed to go what party because they probably a little bit wrongly design the software to be so agreeable that it goes, oh, the party, I know the party, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, nope, you're stupid, you don't know the party. But if it was, in the future, the systems will be better at asking follow-up questions. OpenAI's deep research is really good about this. He goes, hey, do you mean XYZ before I go on my training run? And you go, oh, shit, I fucked that up. I actually mean BYZ. Okay, fine, that makes sense. As they do this more, it'll be way better. Humans misinterpret emails. They'll misinterpret facial expressions all the goddamn time. I think my wife is pissed at me. She's really just tired. I think she's tired. She's really actually just pissed at me. She's usually just pissed at me. JK. Why do we hold AI to standards of perfection no system can meet, where we let humans get away with everything and still call them magical and soul and super smart? Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Finely tuned AI models now surpass human experts in specific contextual tasks, and more of them. For example, AI trained on medical imaging outperforms radiologists in detecting certain cancers. Context doesn't stop it from excelling. Nowadays, it's probably true to say that an AI chatbot on text-based medical diagnostics is better than every human doctor on aggregate. There's no one human doctor that knows as much about medicine as ChatGPT, not by a long shot. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. And the gap is closing quickly. And soon, remember, machines have no human limit. They'll exceed the gap and they'll be smarter than us. Very soon, in the next 2 years. It's funny because older models did struggle with sarcasm and humor. GPT 4.5 is good with any amount of sarcasm, humor, nuance, and metaphor that you want to give it. It's better than almost every human. I talked at length recently to Grok for the first time. Scott, Grok is fucking hilarious.
Oh, it's supposed to be, right? Yeah.
Hilarious. I just started vibing with it instantly. Dude, it's coming back with vibes. What the fuck? If you didn't tell a person from 2022 that this was a machine, they'd be like, it is for sure a human. The only thing that gives it away that it's a machine is that it types faster than any human could ever think. And you're like, okay, this is insane. So like, there's some guy in a fucking warehouse typing back. This is fake. Like, do you know anyone that can type this fast? Like, no. So what is it? Yeah, it is a super intelligent machine. GPT-4o, Claude, and Grok are already funnier than most people. They get context better than most people. They get more jokes. They can dish out better jokes and more creative with jokes. And this claim here that don't do context, nuance, and humor can just be deleted out.